Top 10 fights that made Dana White go crazy. As a sport, mixed martial arts MMA has a huge area of personalities. Everyone has different qualities and controversies attached to them. Some of them are more in the limelight and some of them don't catch much attention. Dana White, the president of UFC, has attention-grabbing personality traits, which make him famous and well-known among people. He adds to the entertainment aspect of the MMA business. Today, we are going to talk about the 10 fights that made Dana White go really mad. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. Number 10. Rico Rodriguez vs. Randy Couture. Dana White is known for sometimes exaggerating things, but when he said the fight between Rico and Randy at UFC 39 almost ended UFC, he was not even kidding. The entire show was almost cancelled just some days before the event when Rico Rodriguez decided to get a massive, temporary tattoo for Golden Palace Casino to get that sponsor money. Unfortunately for him, the Mohegan Sun, which was not even a Golden Palace, didn't like the idea of putting 7,800 people in the arena and advertising the competitors' products. The board at the Mohegan Sun told Dana and Lawrence Fertitta to cancel the show. But Dana and Fertitta eventually worked things out with the casino, maybe by paying them big bucks. So the show was allowed to go on and Rodriguez won, but that stunt could have shrunk the company as they were already under debt. Number 9. Dennis Hallman vs. Brian Ebersole. This is a weird one. Dennis has always been an amazing fighter and has a good normal personality. But at UFC 133, his outfit was unusual and it gave everyone a memory that can never be forgotten. So what am I even talking about? So apparently Dennis told Ariel Helvani that he lost a bet and it meant he had to wear Speedos to the fight. So for a professional fight on national television, Dennis wore a blue Speedo. I mean, who does that? Social media, the commentary team, and everyone watching had something to say. Dana White wanted to get those Speedos off screen as soon as possible, so he awarded Brian Ebersole, Dennis's opponent, $70,000 for finishing the fight in the first round. He paid him the bonus after the fight. Later on in an interview, Dana said that he was furious that UFC staff and Hallman's own corner would allow him with such little clothing. He said it embarrassed him as a UFC president and it was horrible. Number 8. Tito Ortiz vs. Forrest Griffin. Dana White is not a fan of tomfoolery, especially on his broadcasts. The UFC president always sits on the cage side for the main card of pay-per-view, and that's where he was when the third fight between Tito Ortiz and Forrest Griffin ended at UFC 148. Griffin thought his performance was not according to standard, so he decided to head back to the locker room before the decision was rendered. Dana was not going to bear that he chased Forrest down and asked him to get back into the cage, which Forrest did, and to his utmost surprise, he was the winner. Later, when Dana was asked about this, he said it was like professional suicide. He told Forrest, next time, when you're disappointed, do it in the back. Number 7. George St. Pierre vs. BJ Penn. The problem Dana White had during the main event of UFC 94 between George St. Pierre and BJ Penn for the welterweight title was not the kind of usual controversy. Between several rounds during the fight 1 of GSP's cornerman was rubbing Vaseline over the champion's back, which is of course illegal. Dana White noticed him greasing and said GSP was not cheating. After the fight, BJ Penn and GSP felt slippery, but the matter was settled down almost immediately and no further actions were taken against GSP and it was called an accident. Number 6. Conor McGregor vs. Khabib Nurmagomedov. You can talk about how big UFC 229 was between Conor and Khabib, and how a second fight between them can be lucrative because of the post-fight brawl. But if you go back and review the post-show interviews of Dana White, he's not so happy about it. He was sad and disappointed that he didn't even inquire about the pay-per-view yet soon after the show. You will be shaken to see Dana White giving clarifications, telling the press that he had been working hard for 18 years for building the sport, and he promised them that this is not what an MMA sport is like. He said that the governor was here tonight and he ran out of the building in fear. Dana called it super duper really super bad day. Number 5. John Fitch vs. Josh Burkman. Dana White hates referees who are bad at their jobs, and the referee hated the most by the UFC's president would probably be the mustached Steve Mazzagatti. He has a history of screwing things up badly while refereeing in the UFC, and by mid-2013, White was done with it, and he almost buried Mazzagatti at a press conference over a fight that didn't even take place in his organization. So what happened is, Josh Burkman choked out John Fitch at World Series of Fighting 3, and Josh stood up and started celebrating, while Mazzagatti stood there like a statue not doing anything until Fitch was like an unmoving, non-living thing. Later, Dana White pulled his classic one-liners and unleashed his angers on Mazzagatti for almost 10 minutes. He said he doesn't even know Mazzagatti, so he has nothing personal against him. White said Mazzagatti shouldn't even be allowed to watch MMA on TV, let alone be a referee. He called Mazzagatti dangerous, and his anger was effective in that later that year, Mazzagatti would referee his last ever UFC event, and 2 years later be pulled from working major shows. Number 4. Kimbo Slice vs. Seth Petruzzelli. In 2008, MMA was steaming hot and everyone was trying to get in on the action, including CBS and their partner promotion Elite XC. The street fighting legend Kimbo Slice was knocked out by Petruzzelli in 14 seconds. The event drew 4.5 million viewers. Slice was offered the fight on short notice after Ken Shamrock received a cut on his eye and practiced before the fight. Petruzzelli after the fight claimed that the promoters told him not to take Kimbo down for some time. Seth took his words back after some time, explaining he didn't mean that. It was not many days after when Dan came on YouTube absolutely roasting Elite XC and Kimbo Slice. Dana White in an interview said how UFC was trying to make the sport legitimate and these illegal activities were destroying that, and these people don't care if they destroy the whole sport. Number 3. George St. Pierre vs. Johny Hendricks. You can see the fire coming out of Dana White after UFC 167. You could see he was about to blast from anger. The Las Vegas card ended in controversy when the welterweight title fight between GSP and George Hendricks resulted in a split decision win for the champ. A shocking result for many viewers, including the UFC president, who thought it was a straight and clear win for the challenger, and cherry on top, GSP almost half retired during his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan. White was furious and called the fight the worst commission on the planet in an interview. He said the governor should step in immediately before these guys actually destroy the sport. Number 2. Anderson Silva vs. Demian Maia. Dana said it was his lowest moment as the president at UFC 112. He said he was embarrassed and disgraced. The card marked the promotion's first ever trip to Abu Dhabi, and in the company's never-ending quest for world domination, there were key partners in the region to be had if the UFC could impress. So this card was stacked up to world title fights and the most unique and inspiring champion the sport had ever seen, headlining Anderson Silva, who decided to have a fight with Demian Maia after playing with his food a bit more than usual in the first 2 rounds. The Spider did nothing in the final 3. The crowd booed and chanted for Maia. Dana left the fight early and called Silva's performance a disgrace. Number 1. Chuck Liddell vs. Tito Ortiz. This hit Dana in 3 different ways. 1. He hates Golden Boy promoter Oscar De La Hoya. 2. Dana and Tina have a long history of pissing each other off. 3. His good friend Chuck Liddell was wheeled out an 8-year-old retirement only to be code aggressively. On top of that, De La Hoya and Ortiz came out firing at White about his business practices before the event. Oscar said in an interview that I'm working hard to build my business and take care of his fighters. The third fight between Chuck and Tito was enough to light up Dana White. He said Chuck Liddell was making $400,000 a year from the UFC and he made $250,000 to fight for Oscar. Dana went after the commission that allowed the fight and Oscar on many occasions. Thank you for watching. Make sure to save us by the bell. See you in the next video.